India has a large chunk of babies who are born low birth weight. 30% of the babies born in India are low birth weight, and about one third of them are preterm. Most of these babies are discharged from many NICUs after a lot of interventions and going home. And what is going to be the status of them, what is going to the nutrition of them on follow-up is a big debate. Not many people know that post-discharge nutrition is the one which has to be a specific entity which has to be looked upon. So many babies who are going home, mothers will ask only whether our baby is going to do well in long term or not. So there are many variables which decide this, how they are going to fare in long term neurodevelopmentally. One of them is degree of prematurity, whether they are IUGR or not, bleed in the brains, or any immaturity in the brain which causes periventricular leukomalacia. And these things are the one which can be adjusted by their clinical settings and by various methods of treatment in NICU. But there are some things like socio-economic status also which may make a say in predicting the neurodevelopmental sequelae. And the one which is more and more neglected is the postnatal nutrition, because it is the nutrition which will decide how the baby is going to fare in long term. So if you see at the brain development per se, the brain development per se starts antenatally and continues for 2 to 6 years of life very rapidly. And in this first 9 to 12 months is very critical, which is said to be a very critical period in the child neurological status in long term. For this, whatever diet and nutrition what we take in first 9 to 12 months is important even for a preterm baby. So typically a baby who is going home, say 1 kg or 800 grams, at the time of discharge, if you see, because most of the NICUs, they won't give full total parenteral nutrition. Even enteral nutrition will not supply all the calories and protein. So at the time of discharge, most likely they are likely to be compromised growth, and growth status is below comparable term of same gestational age. And linear growth itself doesn't tell the story, because if you see the lengthwise, most of these babies look very long and thin. But it's the bone, brain and lean body mass, these are the one which have to be seen. And even at 40 weeks post-conceptional age, if you take a preterm baby, special needs exist. Means they lived on their debt. Means whatever they had in utero, they have spent it to come out through the catabolic phase of prematurity and infection and the growth. So they have a high nutrient requirement because of accumulated protein and energy deficits and decreased bone mineralization and uncertain vitamin A stores and possible antioxidant depletion, because all diseases like HMD or BPD or NEC or IC bleed, all these are basically mediated by free radicals of oxygen. So their antioxidant defenses are used up, and they have possible deficiencies of zinc and other micronutrients, which we have to know at the time we are discharging the babies. So now to summarize, every baby, though whether it has in utero growth retardation or not, all preterms have an ex utero, extrauterine growth retardation because of early growth delay. And along with that, there is lack of catch-up growth. Means at the time of discharge itself, they are in deficit. Along with that, after discharge, they may not grow well. So this is the most frequent cause of morbidity seen in VLBW babies. And when we speak to our colleagues in neonatology, they say 20 to 40% of babies who are discharged from NICU will have these problems and get readmitted for this reason again. And this is the underlying cause behind poor growth. So this may have long-term consequences on the neurodevelopmental outcome. So post-discharge nutrition is one entity which has come into limelight recently, and it's coming up in India also. So best practices on post-discharge nutrition, they continue to be evolved. But before we go further, we need to answer some key questions. One is whether these VLBW babies have any specific nutritional requirement in post-discharge period, and whether this is critical for later health and development or not. So if you see this graph, there are two phases. If a preterm baby is born, early means as soon as a baby is born and brought to nursery, there is a phase of early nutrition, wherein we recommend TPN on day 1, total parenteral nutrition, start feed early, see that they won't go into deficit and they maintain their weight. Second stage, they have a growth which are in NICU, which is a primary grower phase. So here the growth is very rapid. During this time we give feed and TPN, and as early as possible we will go on to full feed. But if you see later in the right side last part of curve, we can see a steep curve which is the post-discharge nutrition, during which all the nutrient requirements increase very rapidly. So this is the phase what we have to match, and they are not with us. Most of the time these post-discharge babies are with the mother in their homes. We can't assess them every day and can't give them guidance on what to give. So for this we need to have specific post-discharge instructions on how to do and how to go about it. So what are the nutritional risks what these post-discharge babies have? So they have a nearly 25 gram per kg of protein deficit, and we need to give up to 3.2 gram per kg protein daily. Say if you take a normal term baby which has a requirement of 1 gram per kg, if you see roughly, this is approximately 3 times more, 3 to 4 times in between the higher normal requirement. And if you take energy, in addition to their growth of the term baby for that day, there is a 1000 kilocalories per kg deficit is there in the energy as well. So roughly they need another 110 calories per kg per day. This, if they are living in an environment which is very cold, that cold stress also may increase their energy deficit to a major extent. In addition to both of protein and energy, they also need iron for growth, and they need approximately 2.25 milligram per day iron. So if the baby is needing only it for growth, it's only 2 mg per kg. But if the baby also has iron deficiency, you need up to 6 milligram per kg. So there is issue of wide iron status at discharge, which is the focus of many researchers now. How much baby has got iron at the time of discharge and how it is finding. And recent data says even this 2 gram per kg or 2.24 grams is much low. They say up to 4 to 6 grams is the one which is the target. But why we need so much of protein? Why we say normal compared to normal 1 gram per kg per day, we are telling roughly 3.2 or 3 or 4 gram per kg per day. Because all this protein is required for DNA and RNA synthesis and maintenance, for neurotransmitter production, for synaptic efficiency, for growth factor synthesis, and for structural factors in the brain like neurite extensions or synapse formation. For all these, brain needs lot of protein. And unless this is there, they are going to suffer sequelae in future. And why brain needs so much fat? For cell membrane, for synapse formation, for melanin, brain needs fat. So fat and protein are okay, but iron is very critical, because many iron is a critical nutrient for a developing human, and they say 0 to 2 years is the window period where if you don't supply iron in enough quantity, they may have sequelae, neurological sequelae and developmental sequelae and even behavioral sequelae in future. So why iron is important? Because it is a part of so many cellular processes, particularly delta 9 desaturase, glial cytochromes. They control the oligodendrocyte production of myelin. So whatever myelination happen which is responsible for development of the child, the control of that myelination is through oligodendrocytes, which is controlled by the enzyme which contains iron. And these cytochromes also mediate oxidative phosphorylation and determine neuronal and glial energy status. So whatever brain hypoxia comes, that is controlled by iron. And the tyrosine hydroxylase, which is there in all transmitters, it also needs iron. So because of this, all these enzymes for basic myelination, for energy use, as well as for neurotransmitter synthesis, iron is very much required. So there are many people who looked at whether all this is true, because to speak in theory it's very easy, but people have looked at. Alan Lucas from UK way back in 92 published a paper in which he has seen that preterms who are less than 34 weeks, they are randomized to standard term formula and follow on preterm formula. What he told was, compared with term formula, preterm formula whoever have taken, they have higher rate of head growth between 2 to 6 months. But this growth was not different at 9 months. So with this, many people subsequently looked upon this part of newborn growth, wherein there is another study from Cook which has published in Pediatric Research in 98, wherein they have seen between a preterm formula and specific follow-up formulas. So what they have showed is male babies had higher head circumference than other babies, but in female there was not much of growth. But most of these papers have not gone much details compared to what we spoke. This has not shown much results, but people have known, particularly whatever calcium accumulation and whatever accumulation for somatic and brain growth happens in first year of life. So in VLBW babies who are caught up by 8 months, they have failure to catch up by 8 months. It means lower developmental scores may be there, small head circumference may be there, and they may have higher rate of neurosensory impairment. This has been well known in a study by Hack et al. From obstetrics. So why all this is important? Because we know about Barker's hypothesis. that there is a principle of long-term programming. Say whatever you grow in utero and whatever you grow in first 2 years, that is the one which is going to decide how you perform in future. So there is something called long-term programming hypothesis, and people also realize that there is a window period in first 2 years of life which may be causing consequences of early undernutrition. And not only this, we are speaking only about undernutrition, but if somebody is growing too rapidly, if a UGR baby is there, given inappropriate supplementation, if the baby grows up too much fast, that also may cause problems in long term. So even problems of rapid growth are also seen. So for this, we need to make sure that what we are giving to these preterm infants in post-discharge state should be ideally matching and should give their best to them, to their potential. So what is possible? What we can do? The idea is human milk is the best. Human milk is the gold standard. So it's the preferred feeding for the ELBW and VLBW babies because of immunological value, antimicrobial components which no other formula can give, because of the nutritional values, and it contains all hormones and enzymes. And once growth is established, if the baby is growing well, nutritional needs of preterm babies exceed the content of human milk. Means for up to 1.5 months, the preterm milk contains higher protein, but after a few months or few weeks, the contents will drop. So the nutrient requirements of the preterm baby increases. So that's why we need to supplement protein, calcium, phosphate, magnesium, sodium, zinc and other vitamins. So predominantly, if a baby is unable to get mother milk to desired extent, then we need a formula for preterms which should be an enriched formula. So it should contain predominantly more protein and more energy. It should also contain extra calcium, phosphorus and zinc, and it should also contain additional vitamins and trace elements. The goal is to increase proportionate growth. Means it's not to increase the weight of the baby as such, it is to cause good amount of proportionate growth through proper calcium deposition, proper bone growth and increase lean body mass. So if we see the protein comparison for the post-discharge transition, you can see here in this slide from a book of Sang et al., who has written Nutrition on Preterm Infant in 2005. You can see the term breast milk contains a protein which is nearly 1.1. Term formula contains a protein which is nearly around 2. Whereas nutrient enriched formulas will contain up to 2.5 to 3. Whereas a high protein formula post-discharge nutrition will contain protein up to 2.5 to 3. So if you see term to preterm, preterm to post-discharge formulas, the protein content gradually increases, and we need higher protein to compensate for the deficit what preterm babies have. So people have seen, this is a study by Bishop who has published a data on how nutrient enriched formulas, if they are given properly, increase the bone mineral content in 9 months post-conceptional age. What they have shown is, they have shown significant difference between people who have been given term formula and nutrient enriched formulas. The bone mineral content is very much better if you are given a nutrient enriched formula for preterm baby. So there is another study which is much more recent, published by Carver. What they have done is, they have taken babies of less than 1.85 kg. Then they have randomized them into 2 groups. One group receiving term formula containing 20 calories per ounce, other nutrient enriched formula 22 calories per ounce. Then they have fed to 12 months. Up to 12 months age they have given, and they are stratified by birth weight and gender. So what they have shown in this study is, babies who have been given nutrient enriched formulas, they have gained more weight and they are longer by 3 months. And even at 1 month, 2 months and 6 months and 12 months also, they had better growth, better height and better head circumference also. So particularly those babies who are less than 1.25 kg babies, and in this study male babies, they showed that is a particular benefit. So now we know the deficits, we have seen some study. Now what to do now? What is the take home message, what we can give? Say one strategy does not fit all. We can't say generalize that every baby should get this or every baby should get that. And every baby we have to monitor during their discharge about their growth, their head circumference and length. And we should not sit back and accept and resign on day one telling that poor growth is inevitable. We have to do a proactive approach in which we have to tell that this baby has to grow in the normal in utero growth. Whatever baby is growing in utero, that curve baby has to reach. And if the baby is breastfed completely, you should have individual strategies. Like if the baby is taking express breast milk, you say that directly on breastfeeding, they can go as soon as they demonstrate good milk output and good growth. And we have to always communicate with the primary caregivers. Many times the neonatologist may not be taking the follow-up. Sometimes they may refer to the pediatricians. We have to be in touch with them, telling that this baby has to grow here and this is the growth chart of this baby. You have to plot on this. If the baby is dropping down on the growth curves, you have to come back. If baby is increasing in growth, then you have to tell us, because baby is prone for problems if it increases rapidly. So basically we have to maintain a nutrient enriched strategies for proportional growth. So for breastfed babies, what to do? Breastfed babies, we need to monitor growth more frequently and individual feeding strategies to maximize the growth. To tell in brief, say if I am giving tube feed, after every few tube feeds, I want to change on to spoon feed. After spoon feed, once they go home, all people will ask whether to try direct breastfeeds. If they try direct breastfeed and if the baby sleeps in between, you don't know how much feed baby has got. So that's why we have to take them that how to ensure adequacy of feed when taking direct breastfeed also has to be taught of in post-discharge nutrition. And if the baby is a formula fed baby in first year, we have to make sure that they make in proper dilution, proper concentration and proper formula is given. Not all babies may need post-discharge formula. If somebody is not thriving well, if their preterm formula itself is not enough to meet the growth needs of that particular baby, they need proper post-discharge formula. So post-discharge breastfed babies, these are the instructions what we can take home. Like we have to give iron supplement from the time of discharge. Though some books say at least 4 weeks you have to wait. And continued use of fortifiers of calcium, phosphorus, zinc, vitamin D and protein supplements like human milk fortifiers, specifically with idea of supplementing these elements can be used. A multivitamin supplement also can be used. And as the baby is weaned off, say after 6 months, most of the time the breast milk output may come down. Then you have to wean off to a iron fortified post-discharge formula with appropriate contents of DHA. And any deficiencies you have to monitor and treat, and introduce solids only after 6 months of age, and you have to monitor growth. So this is all for breastfed babies. So use fortifier, use supplements, and after 6 months if breast milk is not enough, consider use of appropriate formula. And weaning foods after 6 months of age and monitor growth well. If a baby is completely breast milk fed, say what we can do is there are various options, like sometimes you can give a preterm milk, sometimes you can give human milk fortified to breast milk until they are 9 months old. So to fortify is to see that if baby is going to gain weight well with breastfeeding, this fortification you can continue up to 9 months also. And sometimes if milk is not enough, they can alternate breastfeeding with a preterm milk. And all these babies you have to continue iron at around 4 mg per kg per day. The range is you can go up to 6 mg per kg per day as well. And preterm infants after discharge, always tell them to come back. Educate them, tell them that this is the issue what you have to recognize. So how much weight gain has to be expected in next visit. How much is expected you have to tell before you send them home. That every week I am expecting a weight gain of say 30 grams. Next week I am expecting weight gain of 10 grams per day, like that. And monitor anthropometry and office visit. Don't just auscultate and see clinically and send. Always measure head circumference, length and weight and maintain on a correct growth chart, not on the usual growth charts what we see. And always provide nutritional counseling and order lab test only when required. If you do repeated lab testing, they won't come back telling that you will prick the baby unnecessarily. So that's why only when you feel it's inevitable, then only order blood test, simple blood tests like hemoglobin estimation. So if a baby is not breastfed, what are the options what we have? Say in advanced countries, in India right now we don't have access to specific post-discharge formulas because none are available as of now. But if you see in the West, they have a preterm formula, they have a preterm post-discharge formula, and they have term cow milk based formulas as well. But if you see the composition, the energy is very much different in them. So the post-discharge formulas typically lie between a preterm formula to term formula. The composition lies in between, in the middle. You can see in this table that most of the contents like energy, protein, calcium, phosphorus and vitamins, they lie in the middle. So post-discharge formula composition is between preterm formula to term formula. And post-discharge formula fed babies, we have to give a high energy density iron fortified formula. Roughly you have to give up to 24 calories per ounce. Basically they need more of calcium, more of phosphorus, more protein and trace elements as we have discussed earlier. and multivitamins are usually unnecessary for them because they are given multivitamins through this formula. And these babies also you can start weaning foods after 6 months, and you have to monitor growth properly. Even overgrowth or undergrowth, both are dangerous. So AAP has clearly, American Academy of Pediatrics has given a clear statement telling that use of preterm discharge formulas up to postnatal age of 9 months will result in greater linear growth, weight gain and bone mineral content compared with use of term infant formulas. Because many of us are always in doubt how long I should continue this preterm formula or post-discharge formula. They have given a statement of up to 9 months you can continue these formulas to achieve proper growth. And postnatal growth you have to monitor in proper charts wherein it will be given. For each gestation age category, postnatal growth curve is to the right of reference curve. So this is the in utero growth curves. Postnatal growth curves is towards the right of the reference curve. And for preterm infant, as we discussed, the composition of the post-discharge formula is intermediate between term and preterm, but there are some differences. Like compared to term formula, the preterm post-discharge formula will contain more protein and contains extra calcium, phosphorus and zinc. Zinc is one nutrient which lot of research evidence has come telling that this is required to promote linear growth, and it may contain some additional vitamins and trace elements. So regarding micronutrient supplementation for preterm babies, there is no need to supplement if they are taking post-discharge formula with all vitamins inside. So post-discharge formula will give more water-soluble vitamins than a term formula. And about fat-soluble vitamins, very little data is there. So post-discharge formula supply enough fat-soluble vitamin. But if somebody is taking only mother's milk, vitamin A, D and E levels are dependent on mother's nutritional status. So for them we need to supplement vitamin A, D and D. So if it is a healthy preterm babies after 3 kg weight, there is no need to supply water soluble vitamins, only with the exception of vitamin D, for which lot of evidence has come now to supplement vitamin D in post-discharge states. So if you are having availability for all resources, this table will tell what to do. Say if a baby is discharged, if baby is on breastfeeding, completely breastfed baby, you need to do only follow up within 48 hours of discharge. You have to come back again, then closely monitor growth, see supplementation, start iron, and you have to do educational counseling and support them on what to do and how to give breastfeeding. And if baby is growing well, then no need to do anything. But if baby is growing not well, then you have to use human milk fortifier or a post-discharge formula. Then obtain a help of lactation or dietitian consultant and monitor the breastfeeding technique and continue close follow-up. Whereas if a baby is taking only post-discharge formula, you have to closely monitor growth. And if a baby is growing well, you can continue post-discharge formula till 9 months. If the baby is not gaining weight well, then you have to assess the volume intake and always increase the calories. If baby is not growing well despite post-discharge formula also, then you have to see why the baby is not growing well and look into causes like infection or cold stress or multiple factors may be there. So this is to summarize how to follow up the babies who are discharged from ICU. Basically, formula fed preterm infants, they are given proper diet in first year of life to replenish the growth and energy deficits which they have acquired in utero and soon postnatal birth in NICU. And those who are breastfed babies also, they need to be monitored very closely and employ individual feeding to get proportional growth. And most optimal strategies for VLBW babies are yet to be defined, and further research is required to determine the best practice guidelines. Everybody has to individualize depending on their own baby, their own patient and mother-infant dyad on how to get proper growth. But what is more important is serial measurement of growth and maintaining post-discharge feeds till that universally accepted protocols are available. By doing all this, giving proper nutritional support in post-discharge states, we are reducing the morbidity and we are improving the proper neurodevelopmental outcome, and better nutritional support facilities will lead to better growth and decreased morbidities in long term. So post-discharge nutrition is as important as while the nutrition is being given to the pregnant woman, as well as nutrition is being given to newborn while it is in the nursery. Many preterm babies are born in India, and the happiest moment is their discharge. And many of them don't grow weight well after discharge. As you know, many preterm babies at the time when they are admitted in nursery parents ask us about their follow-up, how they do, how they will do on long term. We will tell them there are so many factors which control development, not one. Some important things are how preterm they are, whether they are growth retarded, and whether they have any bleed or immaturity in the brain, and other things which count up are socioeconomic status and other things. But one major thing which people forget is the post-discharge nutrition. So post-discharge nutrition, it is the nutrition which controls them, how they fare in long term, because the brain which is growing needs more nutrients in a more sensitive way. So most of these babies, when they go home, they have a lot of deficits, because if you compare a preterm baby 28 weeker who will go home at 40 weeks, if you compare with a 40 weeker term baby, there are lot of deficits. The deficits, if you see the length alone, you will not know all the things, because length will grow, but it's the weight which is faltering. And more so in the nutrient composition, if you see, there are lot of deficit and lot of protein and energy deficit, and decreased bone mineralization will be there, and vitamin A stores will be uncertain, and lot of antioxidant depletion because of the disease what they fought in because of prematurity, and possible zinc and vitamin D deficiencies. More and more evidence is coming now. So only very recently we have some focus on post-discharge nutrition, and best practices still continue to evolve. Means till now we don't know what is the best post-discharge nutrition, and now we have many important questions like whether these VLBW babies after discharge, whether any specific nutritional requirement they have, and whether this nutrition is critical or not. So human milk is the gold standard for everything. Express bus milk, baby's own mother's milk is the one which is the best, and because of the inherent nutritional values, immunological values, microbial, antimicrobial components, and it contains hormones and enzymes which will make the baby grow well as gut to absorb all the nutrients. And once growth is established, though milk is the best, always we have to monitor. After a period of time when growth is well established, over time breast milk is known to have lot of fluctuations, and after 1 to 3 months there may be faltering in the protein content, in the calcium phosphorus status, and in the micronutrients, zinc and vitamins. So that's why always we have to make sure that there is no deficiency even when baby is growing well and on complete breastfeeding. If you compare various formulas, if you compare a term breast milk will contain 1.1 gram protein, but whereas if you see term formula, they contain around 1.5 to 2. If you see the preterm formula, it will contain more than 2. If you see a post-discharge formula, high protein formula, it may contain up to 3.5 gram protein. So this is the one which is more required for babies who are growing very fast and have high protein requirements. So what are the how a post-discharge formula composition will vary compared to a term milk and a preterm milk. So post-discharge formula composition is actually in between term and preterm. If you see the calories, term cow milk based formula will contain 20 calories, preterm will have for formula for in-hospital use will have 24 calories, where a post-discharge formula will have around 22 calories per ounce. Similarly, energy, protein, calcium, phosphorus and vitamin A and D, the levels fall in between a preterm formula to a term formula. So ideally a post-discharge baby who is not on breastfeed, who needs formula, needs a high energy iron fortified formula with enough calcium, phosphorus, protein and trace elements. And multivitamins are usually unnecessary because the formula supplies all the vitamins, and all these babies you have to start weaning food like our national policy after 6 months, and you have to monitor growth properly. So American Academy of Pediatrics has clearly stated that use of preterm post-discharge formulas up to the age of 9 months will have better lean and growth, weight gain and bone mineral content compared to those who have been given term infant formulas. So ideally in first year of life, give preterm babies who are not getting breast milk and who are not growing well, you can replenish their nutrient and energy deficit by using a proper post-discharge formula, and promote growth by giving proper formulas, and monitor growth frequently by head circumference, length and weight. And if a baby is completely exclusively breastfed, even in them growth needs close monitoring and observe for any specific nutritional deficiencies. Employ individual feeding techniques for optimizing proportionate growth. One strategy doesn't fit all the babies. Monitor growth, head circumference and length, and never accept that poor growth is inevitable. There are some clinicians who say that this baby is preterm, this baby is IUGR, may not grow. Never give away like that. Always ensure that you are giving enough in the diet, and it's the only baby who is not growing well. And for breastfed babies, depending on their feeding patterns, always have individualized strategies. Always we have to communicate with the parents and with the primary caregiver. If neonatologist is not following directly, the pediatrician who is doing the follow-up should know how much this baby has to grow every week or with every visit, and if a baby is not growing, what to do. And always maintain nutrient enriched strategies for proportionate growth. The typical formula feeding options for babies, if you have all the resources in countries where the preterm formulas and post-discharge formulas are available, if you look at the composition, the calories per ounce for a term formula, if you take it as 20 calories per ounce, preterm formula if you take 24, post-discharge formula will contain 22. So the composition of the post-discharge formula is in between term and preterm formulas, and this applies even to the protein, to calcium, phosphorus, as well as the micronutrients. So the ideal recommendation for a post-discharge formula fed babies is to give high calorie density and to give iron fortification and to give enough calcium, phosphorus in the ratio of 2:1 and use trace elements as well. And multivitamin supplementation is unnecessary for this formula fed babies. And like for other term babies, we can start weaning food from the age of 6 months, and we have to monitor their growth. And AAP has clearly stated that specific post-discharge formulas for preterm babies, if given up to 9 months, will have better linear growth, bone mineralization, and weight gain compared to term formulas. So formula fed babies should be given wherever possible. Formula fed babies, if they are given for specific post-discharge formulas, they will have their better growth and reduced energy and protein deficits. And if you are giving exclusive breastfeeds, growth you have to monitor in them for proper linear growth as well as head growth, and for energy deficit or specific nutrient deficits. And always we should have specific strategy for specific baby. One strategy, one recommendation will not fit all. All babies you have to give proper nutrients and monitor growth, length and head circumference, and never resign, never say that poor growth is inevitable for preterm babies. Always have a positive attitude. If they are breastfed, see that their feeding is adequate and growing well. If they are formula fed, see that they are fed enough formula with proper composition, and always communicate with the parents and the primary caregivers. If neonatologists are not monitoring, they have to tell the pediatricians who are looking after the follow-up that this is the weight gain which is expected, and give them proper growth charts to plot all the curves. And always maintain proper nutrient composition to achieve optimal growth for better neural development for the preterm babies who are discharged from nursery after a lot of hard work and intensive care.